Hello. I haven't made a video in a little bit now, and the ideas that I've come up with are they're just taking a long time to prepare for. So this is something that was shorter, and also I'm actually just making it to show my Russian tutor. But I figured maybe there's somebody else out there that would enjoy seeing it as well. So this is a little console project that I made. I have a few other videos about it as well, but in this one I'm actually gonna talk about it in a different way, and plus I've made some changes. So this is for me to study Russian, and I already am running the program here. So I'm going to choose number 2, which I just labeled a new conjugation sheet that focuses on plural nouns. It's gonna ask me, do I want to study in the original order or in random order, and I'm going to choose random. That's actually the new feature that I added. I should have made it shorter for the demonstration. I won't do 20 examples right now. I'll just do a couple. Finish the translation. Biegut. 6 dogs are running. So, 6 собак бегут. Молодец. Продолжайте. And I want to say yes, so I can hit any key. That doesn't show up very well on there, but it does show up on my screen. I have my camera size shrunk down here for my desktop. But finish the translation. Я дал подарок. And I wanted to say I gave the dogs a present, so я дал собаке подарок. Should be correct, but let me go ahead and type it wrong just to show what happens. Я дал подарок. Oh, try again. And if I get it wrong one more time, then it will tell me the correct response to type in. Oh, and I had it incorrect anyway with what I said. My bad. Я дал собакам подарок. And молодец, and it's asking me продолжайте again. And I just hit any key to go to the next one. Once again, part of the question's cut off here. It just won't fit on the screen. But finish the translation. Они разрешают собак. And it's supposed to say, do they allow dogs in the house? So, они разрешают собак in houses. Sorry, do they allow dogs in houses? В домах, по-моему. Нет. Что это? Домом? Домом, может быть? Они разрешают собак в домом. No. В домах. What did I type wrong? Они разрешают собак в домах. Oh, this was supposed to be a question mark. My mistake. Они разрешают собак в домах. Like that. And once again, this is hard to read here, but so that's the basic idea behind it. And basically, this particular set that I chose is just going over. It's focusing on conjugating plural nouns. I am a lot better at conjugating singular nouns. I don't know, for some reason they click better. I think I use them more, I see them more, and so I wanted to make a whole study sheet that was focused on plurals. And I'll go ahead and close this. I'm not going to run through all 20. And when I hit the last one, it just basically quits the program. This is the program, but I've already seen this in other videos. I showed this in other videos, and there's only some small differences between what I had before and what I have now. For this video, what I want to do is I want to try to actually just explain what's going on. So I'm going to write out a little flowchart, and hopefully I can fit it. I don't have a lot of room the way I set up my screen size. So the first thing we want to do here how quickly I can write this. We want to set the Unicode, or set the console to Unicode. We'll say set the program to be using Unicode. We'll just say set to Unicode. This is required because it's in Russian, so I'm using the Cyrillic alphabet, and in Windows anyway, the console does not naturally use Unicode. It uses ASCII, so it won't accept the Cyrillic alphabet. So that's the first step. The second step then is to request that the user choose study set or choose random. So we'll just say choose set. And you saw that in the demonstration. It pops. It actually, this was already up when I had it already running, and this was what was up. Choose the set. So it produced a list of whatever it was. I think 10 different items, and said choose one of these. Or the last option is to choose, say, random, and it will choose one randomly for you. Now we have a decision point, random. So we reached a point where we ask ourselves, are we random? If it's true, I'll just make a T here. I'm trying to write as little as possible because it adds time, and my writing's really sloppy on this tablet anyway. So if we're true, we want to generate a random int within our range, and then set this selected file. It's just the variable I have set the selected file to this. So we'll say, I'll just say generate random, but it's doing both. I have it generating the random number and setting a variable selected file to this random variable. Then the next thing, if we're false here, we set selected file to the user number. So I'll just say user number or user entry. So this whole thing above is to assign selected file. That's what I call the variable. Now, the next step that we move to is we're going to, so this is coming off of either of these, either the true or the false comes to this to the right here. Read each line of the chosen text file into an index of an array. So there's a method that when you run the method, it reads every line of the chosen text file, and it reads each line into a new index in an array. So it generates an array that the length of the array is the number of lines in the text file. And so I'm just going to put generate array because, like I said, I'm trying to keep these really short. So we have to generate our array that's going to store both our questions and our answers. Then the next thing, we come to another decision point where we say, I'll say, well, the question is actually random again, but this is different random. So if someone's only watching and not listening, this won't make a lot of sense. But so this is a different random. The random over here was do you want the sheet chosen to be random? The random over here is, do you want the quiz questions to be in the order they were made in the text file, or do you want them to be in a random order? So if this is false, then we're going to say for int I equals 0, I is less than, I'll just say length. It would be, just like I say, I'm trying to shorten it up, but it would be cards.length minus 1, because it's 1 less than the total length of the sheet. And the main reason for that is because I added an extra line at the end of every sheet telling me where, that's my stopping point. It's not necessary, I just wanted to do it just how I liked the layout of my text files. And then what we do when we increment, we're not incrementing by 1, we're incrementing by I equals I plus 3. Yeah, because the way that I set up my text files, every third line, so the first line is a question, the second line is the answer, or a prompt, question or a prompt. The second line is the answer. The third line is blank, once again for clarity, so that when I go through and read these text files, I'm not just reading a big mess of text. Then the fourth line will be question number 2. So the question numbers go 1, 4, 7, 10. Basically, if you take the number, subtract 1 from it, it should be divisible by 3. Yes. So yeah, so we're in our loop now. The next thing that we need to do here is write the question to the console. Just say write Q. Pretty sure I'm going to run out of room. So the next thing, after we write the question, we read in the user's response. Read response. Then we compare the user response with the correct response. So we'll just say compare. And I almost might be able to squeeze this on here. So next, I don't think I'm going to. I'm going to move up to the right here. It's supposed to follow from underneath. So this is going to end up a little bit messy, unfortunately. So now we're going to say, is the user response correct? By comparing the user response that we just wrote in with the user response that should have been, that was recorded from the text file that I originally made, that this program opened. So if we're true, we'll go true. Then we say, where can I put this at? We say молодец, which is good job. And as you saw, actually, then we say, are you ready to continue? Not for this part, actually. For this part, we say good job, and it automatically moves to the next question. Because when we do things in regular order, I don't have it clearing the screen every time. So you can still see the previous question. I made that change when I added the random order, which is what I demonstrated a second ago. So this one says good job, and then immediately moves into the next spot. It increments the array, and it writes the next question. If correct was false, then we say we have to ask another question. Is it the third attempt? Because as you saw, it allows 3 attempts for the question. And after, I don't know that I showed this, after the third attempt it automatically moves on to the next question. I figure if I don't get it by 3 attempts, I don't want to sit there and waste all day on it. I want to move on to the next question. So if third attempt is true, then we actually go ahead and move on to the next question. So we follow the same line. to increment the counter and move on to the next question. If third attempt is false, then we attempt again. Yeah. And if we attempt again, then we actually move to write the question again. So right there. Okay, now, so that's the full set of logic if we chose not random, if we chose regular order. And once this for loop is done looping, the program just quits. It just ends the program. So now let's go over if we choose true for random here, and I'm going to have to just erase this and make some space. So if random order equals true, then we're going to, first I have it write out. For brevity, I'll just say abbreviate instructions. It just writes out to tell the user that the user will be quizzed on 20 random questions. That's not necessary. That was actually just for me during debugging purposes to make sure I had everything working correctly. Then we run through our for loop, and I will actually just write for loop because this part is exactly the same as we had before. In the other one, it's for int I equals 0, where int is less than 20. Sorry, it's not exactly the same. This time we only go to 20 instead of the full length of the sheet. And then we only increment by 1 this time. So I guess I probably should have wrote that actually. Let's write it out. For int I equals 0, I is less than 20, I increment. Oopsie. It's hard to draw a triangle around that. Alright, that's supposed to be it's supposed to be a square anyway, the way I keep my formatting consistent. I was using squares for loops. So we start this for loop. Now the next thing that we do is we generate a random number. I'll just put rand number. And then after this, we check to see if our random number is valid. I'm using a while loop to do this. So as I kind of pointed out before, what we actually have is if we take our index value, subtract 1, and then divide it by 3, it should be evenly divisible by 3. And that's how we know that what we have is a question and not a response or a blank. So to do this, I used while where's it at? It's index lines. I minus 1 modulo 3 does not equal 0. So while this is occurring, and if we have false, so if this evaluates to false, meaning that when you modulo 3, it does equal, wait, so I think I have that backwards. Yeah, I wanted this to be true. So if we subtract 1 and then modulo 3 and it does not equal 0, that means we're not dealing with a question, which means that we should try to generate a new random number. However, try to put it right here, false. So false means that when we modulo 3 does not equal 0, reevaluates to false, it means that modulo 3 does equal 0, so it is divisible by 3 after I had already subtracted 1, which was done right here. Then what we were dealing with is a question, so we can continue. And then basically, it's hard to fit all this on this little tiny page here. So we say, now we can store this number into our array that we're building right now, our array of length 20, and then we can move on to the next index in the array, which will be going back to this for loop again. So we go back to we increment the for loop, we go back to it, we generate a new random number, we say is the number valid? Well, I have it the opposite. Is the number not valid? If the number is not valid, generate a new random number and just keep doing that. I haven't had any problems so far where that part's been unsuccessful. It just eventually gets a successful one. It's so fast that I don't even notice it. And then it goes to, once I get a successful one, I store that into the array, and then I move on to generate a new number. After I'm finished with this and I have all 20, I'm not going to rewrite it all, but basically it just goes through the exact same set for loop that I had before, where now that I have my questions, it just spits out each question one at a time. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. Skirted over a couple things, but for the most part, that's it.